Hello everyone and welcome to the third and final round of the 2020 Great Lakes Open. Terry Millard, the disc golf guy, out here at the Toboggan disc golf course as we've got Discraft's own Andrew Kaluk along with Philo Brathwaite, Drew Gibson, and Discraft's Paul McBeth. This is bonus footage brought to you in part by my Patreon subscribers and Disc Baron. Check them out on discbaron.com. We're going to get to the action. As we said, we got Andrew leading things off here on hole number 1, 477 feet. All four of our players starting the day out at 12 under par.
Team next, Philo Brathwaite.
Andrew's forehand not quite enough power. Not too often do we see forehands by Philo, but maybe he'll bust something out here this round. Not on hole 1. And landing about pin high to the left.
Drew Gibson.
Philo's got at least 90, maybe 100 feet to the pin. See a gentle breeze kind of pushing down. This is the 7th most difficult hole on the course. All the stats I spew out today, some will be made up, but most of them will be true, and they'll come from UDisc and udisclive.com. So big shout out to UDisc and the Pro Tour. Nice gentle turn, putting him inside the circle.
Next, Paul McBeth.
Looks like McBeth is opting for the forehand. Now, believe it or not, guys, this is the 6th card. Which says something about the competitive nature of this tournament to find players of this skill level all the way back on the 6th card during the final round. My boys Dylan and Dustin helped out with securing the footage here. This is all bonus action. I was out on the course trying to give you the play-by-play and, or should I say, the sideline commentary actually with the Disc Golf Pro Tour throughout the weekend. So all of this made possible to you guys because of my Patreon subscribers along with Dylan and Dustin and the Pro Tour. Gibson's just short on his birdie attempt. And Paul with the birdie here on hole 1. He's quoting a Katy Perry song. See a little bit more breezy than actually we saw the previous 2 rounds out here. Temps in the mid to high 80s, but not too much for humidity, which is a reprieve from what we felt and saw and they practiced in earlier in the week. We're going to move over to hole number 2. Playing uphill, 726 feet. This is the 2nd most difficult hole on the course. It averages 4.17. At one point, this was deemed a par 5. They moved it down to being a par 4. McBeth with the roller pushing up to that right side and just staying on the edge, maybe on the fringe. I think the roller is a really risky play only because positioning is so crucial. Of course, they're playing for that distance, but when you get off the fairway with a roller or an air shot, you might be in really tough position to try and attack and get up to the pin in two. I consider it somewhat risky. And just prime placement there for Philo, right in the center of the fairway. Of course, one of the most challenging parts of this hole is the fact that your second shot is going to be an uphill run up more often than not. So I think having a good angle and just a smash here by Drew Gibson. I would venture to guess there were no other drives that got past that point off the tee. Philo checking his footing, as I said, trying to run uphill. He's right in the center of the fairway.
Big bada boom over there. Yeah.
And he knew it right out of his hands. Or hand. I guess he wouldn't really be out of his hands. Andrew's on the left side of the fairway, just trying to fight himself out. And unfortunately, not a lot of distance for the effort he put into it. There's that footing I speak of. Pretty clean release and a great shot by Paul. And one thing I noticed with Paul earlier this year is at one point he was actually working with Brody Smith in trying to talk about timing and release when he's on an uneven surface. So that's something he actually really thinks about. Yeah, everyone goes out and practices those shots from time to time, but to put such a concerted effort into it in terms of when he's got awkward stance or awkward footing, I think you can see where some of that concentration pays off there. Great shot a moment ago by Andrew. Drew capitalizing on that crush he had on the drive. Now Philo's off on the right side. And he's a little deeper than you normally see. You don't see too many people that far off to the right. In fact, I think there was a full 2.5 minutes exhausted trying to find that disc. Wow, and working hard for that par. You see the deep sigh by Philo. And also working hard is Andrew. These look like pretty simple birdies here for who should be Drew and McBeth. Just 11% of the field carding birdies here. That's 16 of the players, so that's pretty impressive to see those guys take that one down. Again, second most difficult hole on the course, 4.17. We move over to the beautiful hole number 3. As you can see, 64-foot drop in elevation, 915 feet. OB on that left side. Huge shout out to the Disc Golf Pro Tour, Mo, and everyone else involved with the drone previews. Appreciate it very much. And 915 feet. A very attackable par 4. That is some pretty big air using all of the fairway and no problems for McBeth. Drew, much lower line. Oh, just great wind read. About 30 feet short of McBeth. That's got to turn. Andrew off on that left side. Philo's got 3 pretty good wind reads so far, I feel like. You see how much lower he kept it than the previous 3 throws.
Come on now, dig in. Dig in. Dig in. Yeah.
Sounds like he swallowed a mosquito. There, and Andrew trying to save his par, putting himself just about circle's edge. Philo, however, was not out of bounds. And we'll see if he makes the clearing. He goes deep of the basket. So that shows you the elevation change. Also shows you a little bit of the power from these guys as Philo's past the pin at 915 feet on his second shot. This is practically a chip shot for both Drew and McBeth. I think the most difficult part of this approach when they're down in the center of the fairway, in the middle there, is if they can see the basket or not, as they're playing up and over that little bit of a mound. So kind of just throwing blindly to a spot without being able to actually see their target, but doesn't look like a problem there. And just trying to do some work here to save his par. Just inside the circle. Solid putt. Huge shout out to Andrew. He was super excited about being on this card. Of course, playing well all weekend to put him here in this position. And he wanted to graciously help support this bonus coverage even. So I got to give a huge shout out to Andrew. And if you think I'm nicer to him than everyone else, it's because I accept bribes. A little frustration by Philo. It feels like maybe the wind didn't do what he expected. He felt like he read it correctly, but maybe didn't lift the disc like he thought it would. He's looking at a par. Meanwhile, Gibson from about the same distance as the previous hole. Another easy birdie. That's going to push him to 2 down in 3 holes. McBeth trying to go 3 for 3. And he's done just that. If anybody's trying to make their move, they're going to need to here. Leaders are sitting 20, 21, 22 under or so on the first 2 rounds. So not only would anyone need to play a phenomenal round, but they'd also need a little help from some some upper card failures, I guess is one way I would politely put that. We move over hole number 4, 580 feet. One of the easier par 4s on the course, at least statistically. 40% of the field will birdie this hole. You're looking just to put it anywhere, get a good 350-foot drive out, and then this pin is pretty attackable. And even though that hit a tree, McBeth will still have a look at getting up to the pin, which is tucked just beyond that tree. I'd go as far as saying that raw power on this hole alone doesn't necessarily pay off. It can make this drive a little bit easier, but you're not getting to the pin no matter how far you throw. So just trying to pump out a hyzer. Maybe you'd like to get past those trees, but no matter how hard you throw, you're not getting all the way to the pin. And Philo beating the trees you really need to get past. That's a pretty good looking forehand there by Andrew. So he'll still have a look at a birdie slightly uphill. You see Philo's almost in just prime position. He's looking straight at the pin, maybe 200 feet at most. And you really want to play it into that hillside. As Philo's doing a little bit of work. You want to play it into that hillside, I feel like, and just have it kind of skip straight up to the basket. Good angle there by McBeth. In fact, if you go too far, you almost might get pinched off, and we'll see if Drew has a little more of a hyzer angle. Yeah. So he didn't hang it up quite wide enough. Another 10 or 15 or 20 feet deeper than where he was, he really wouldn't have had any look at the basket. So distance isn't necessarily the thing here. And huge distance on that putt, though, by Andrew. So he's worked hard for the previous 3 pars, and then he comes up and cans a huge putt here on hole 4. That's for birdie. Philo right around circle's edge. This is Philo for his first birdie of the round. Gibson also just about at circle's edge. Silver lining is that it didn't get up and roll. This is one of the, I'll say, more dangerous greens as McBeth taps in. McBeth starting out the round 4 for 4. Philo's birdie putt was just a bit aggressive and didn't hit anything, unfortunately. And uncharacteristic for sure by Philo. You rarely see him miss many putts, let alone inside the circle. So he's going to walk away with the bogey. We see a little bit of scores changing up already. 5-stroke difference between him and McBeth just 4 holes in. And we're going to move over to hole number 5. 300 feet, 10th most difficult hole. A sharp Anheuser turnover backhand or a forehand might get you to this point where you then get nervous about these trees. Those get in the way. I think statistically this ranks as my least favorite hole, which says a lot because it's a good golf hole. It's just not my favorite. McBeth doesn't find the alley. And Andrew finds the initial gap, but after the skip gets hung up. He's inside circle 2, probably looking at about 40, maybe 45 feet or so. And it seems like the play is just to barely miss that single tree. Gibson's done just that. We'll see if Philo can reset. He's had a little bit of a rough start. Andrew's 1 under for the round. Philo's 1 over. Gibson's 2 down. And McBeth is 4 for 4.
Perfect, Philo. Get in there too. Perfect, buddy.
So a little bit of a search party taking place out here on this left-hand side. Per PDGA rules, if you don't know already, you have 3 minutes. Once everyone in your group is looking, has started, at that point you should start some form of a clock or timer. You have 3 minutes to locate your disc. If it's not found, you then have to go back to the place where it was last thrown from. So it looks like Philo ultimately was found. And just trying to hammer through with that forehand. He goes up, doesn't quite hit the gap. And this is, like Philo, this is just a terrible kick. Both him and Paul getting terrible kicks. At least I thought Paul had made it further into the gap, into the gap, and then kicked back out. Whereas Philo kind of hit the initial guardian tree. That kept him out, and now this is Philo for his 3. The white flag indicates 10 meters, which is about 33 feet. Now, mind you, we've seen all these shots, and we're just at 300 feet.
Jesus Christ. Nice job, dude. Who's dad?
Nice putt by Andrew. It sounded like Drew Gibson was impressed. McBeth for par. And I think he was mad at his zone, naughty zone. Those still go for $200 or $300 on the Facebook groups. So I wonder if they go for more if he's official. If it's like there's a certificate of punched authenticity, like if you punched your disc, but it was punched by McBeth. Do you think it would go for more? Leave that in the comments. I'd like to know. I know those black zones go for more. So all naughty, bad jokes aside, Philo walks away with the bogey. McBeth, after such a great start, he's going to walk away with the bogey, giving one back to the course. And the 10th most difficult hole comes out and bites a couple of these guys. We're going to move over to hole number 6 at 632 feet. All about the placement right to here, just about. You would love to make this turn. You don't want to finish too far down to the left, and you definitely don't want to push it too far right. So, as obvious as this sounds, center fairway is where you want to be. Tune in later for more pro tips from Terror Bear. That looks like a sneaky route. I think you'd like a little bit more distance there. This is the 12th most difficult hole on the course. 32% of the field taking birdies or better here. That looks like a really good shot there by Drew Gibson. Paul's ready to go. And that's what I mean by actually throwing it a bit long. Now, he should be okay there, but a few more feet and you're actually in trouble. So you don't want to go too straight, too long. We'll see if this flexes. That's a great looking shot by Philo. We'll see how he's rewarded with that. Forehand by Andrew. A little crack in my voice. There's McBeth. Yeah, making it look easy. He's got a little bit of a tester putt. And it feels like Philo's dissected this perfectly. Again, center to maybe left side fairway, I think makes for an easier right-handed backhand approach to the pin. We're finding Drew on right side fairway as opposed to the left, where we just saw Philo throw from. So he's got a little bit of a turn to straight shot. That'll give him a good look at birdie. Andrew just inside the circle. Nice. Another solid putt by Andrew. About the same distance for McBeth. He's got to be happy the Chain Star brought that one in. Good subtle plug for Discraft. You're welcome, Discraft. Incredible. We got 3 birdies here. Philo's looking to close out the star frame. Real cliffhanger I left you with there. Philo's excited. We're moving on to hole number 4. Thanks to Savage and the rest of the Pro Tour sponsors and collaborators and partners. Thank you so much. Hole 7 is just 500 feet, although quite a bit of it plays uphill here. It's a par 4, 11th most difficult hole. Like so many holes out here, placement off the tee, and Andrew not messing around. That is a really good shot. I feel like it's pretty common to see the backhand shot off the tee to just kind of push out into the opening. You want to push it as far left as you can without finding OB. It's a good looking shot by Gibson. You'd love to be even a little bit more left. You see Andrews there as well. I feel like the more left you are, the easier the uphill shot's going to be, as in you have to put less turn on it. McBeth short, but left. So McBeth and Gibson both 4 under through the first 6. Now this is just a power turnover uphill with a little bit of a canopy, and you see Philo's had a little too much height on it. He's still looking uphill right around the circle. McBeth gonna play the angle. With the forehand, that's a good looking shot. He'll be putting back down at the basket. Yeah, pretty effortless there by Drew Gibson with the standstill. Andrew's forehand approach also looks pretty effortless. %33% of the field cashing this in for birdie or better. That's 46% of the players, one of those being Philo. McBeth, who has been on, has yet to take a par. So he moves to 17 under. And this is looking pretty good for back-to-back star frames. I don't want to spoil it, but these 10-footers are looking pretty tasty here. So 8 birdies in the last 8 opportunities here for this card. These guys are on fire. Let's take a look. We're going to move over to hole number 8, the downhill shot. 462 feet. 64 of that being downhill, playing out and over some of those trees. And then you have this protected green, which is definitely the most difficult part. The 462 downhill is easy. It's having the protected green, because you're kind of just throwing it to that area and hoping that it will kind of filter down to the pin. Oh, as that has done. I think every cameraman in disc golf will tell you this might be one of the most difficult catch shots, especially if you're a newer catch cameraman. Shout out to Dylan. Yeah, this is just a really difficult hole to try and follow these as they come in. Drew puts it out. Listen. Yeah, and I think that's going to be just a little bit short and left of the pin. You're listening for either a hard tree crash or obviously some metal.
That is long, so far left.
Dude, mine's like, I'm over there.
And McBeth thinks his is far left, which it is.
Keep the lift.
And you see Philo kind of correcting, putting things straight out. And it looked like he just had, dare I say, too much straight to it. That's an official golf term. Usually you see if anyone misses, it's going to be short and left or just somewhere left. Rarely do you see someone actually kind of go long and too straight like we just saw by Philo. And Gibson kind of fighting through the rough on that left side. This is McBeth. And the obstruction gets him. Solid par for Gibson. And finally we've gotten to Andy's. Does he go by Andy? Andy, we haven't had this talk. Andrew. I'll stick with Andrew. I just jinxed you talking while you were putting. And McBeth, 8 holes in. He's going to take his first par. Remains tied with Gibson, so they're both 5 under through 8. And Andrew, if he can clean this up, he's going to look at 4 under through 8. And Philo remains at even par on the round. Almost to the halfway point. Thanks to the Disc Golf Pro Tour, all the presenting sponsors. Thank you guys so much. Patreon supporters, along with Disc Baron. Hole 9, 428 feet uphill the entire way. Just 16% of the field finding birdies here. Averaging a 2.99 and the 8th most difficult. Feels like the roller has really become the play. Last year it didn't seem quite as popular, but now it's gaining a little bit of popularity. And Andrew's going high, trying to push through. And he still finds himself just outside the circle. So he's looking at 38, maybe 40 feet at most. It seems like either the roller or the low line drive are the two main options. Here's the line drive attempt. And had that missed the tree, I think that would have went right past the basket and probably been a little bit deep. McBeth opting for the roller.
They cut that out just for you, huh?
Yeah. Oh, I hate the same tree.
Gibson wondering if the Discraft Golden Boy is getting any special favors out here on this course. Philo with the low line drive. I like it if it gets up.
Another shitty kick.
No, it's
He
fine.
could have
I know, he finish up.
done without that. %72% of the field parring this hole. Drew, oh, just slides out on that right side. 16% are below par, 12% above par, but 72% taking pars here. And McBeth with not enough power. Circle 2 for Philo.
Come on, Wind, are you serious? You're supposed to keep the disc in the air, not drop it.
Philo miffed by a little of the Michigan winds here. And maybe Andrew just the same. His putting has been so solid. Quite surprising, actually. Seems like that's been his sweet spot so far. Some of those 28 to 38 footers. Little deflation as they walk away, and as you can see, part of that 72% actually, all 4 competitors here taking the par. I'm going to move over to hole number 10. as I was saying, hole number 10, after you probably did some shopping in that time, I don't blame you. 31 feet of elevation up to the right here for hole 10, the fourth most difficult hole on the course. Interestingly enough, almost identical statistics to what we saw in the previous hole. 14% of the field finding birdies, 71% of the field finding pars. Previous hole, it was 72%. Takes an elite level crush or an extra good putt, I think, to walk away with the birdie here. It's going to be a little bit short there for Andrew. Average is 3.05, so a little bit over par.
No, dude. Fucking serious.
And that's short there for Gibson, like he maybe caught something. Paul's got maybe a little frustration, but also some revenge on this hole. This will probably forever be talked about as the one that Paul missed
Might be by that tree.
during his 18 under out here a few years ago. I don't know if you guys have heard about that.
Come on, blow it all the way up the hill. Come on.
Philo a little bit lower than a few of the previous shots, and he's past the pin.
I didn't see it finish.
So we'll see what, clearly a very treacherous green though. And angle is so crucial there. I can't tell you how many times I see a disc get up and roll. Even when people are just trying to give a simple approach. McBeth, his sits down after hitting the side of the basket. And this is dangerous territory depending on the release of your putter angle. There it is. Great birdie by Philo. We'll see if that can maybe jumpstart him a little bit. He's now 1 under for the round. Gibson to remain 5 under for the round. McBeth looking to remain at 5 under. And Andrew right there also at 4 under. Everyone's vying for a little position, maybe some Disc Golf Pro Tour points.
Such easy putter from 1 foot either way.
1 foot to the right.
It's like either way.
I lost my best Zeus on this hole.
Uh-oh. Sounds like there's a zoo search party probably happening. And we move over to hole number 11, 358 feet, also uphill. Also almost the exact same statistics. I actually have to go back and look. Pretty similar to the previous hole. 74% of the field taking pars here. Fourth most difficult, 11% below par and 14% above par. So average is 3.05. Previous hole averaged 3.05. And Philo maybe just clipping the 10-meter flag. What a smash, a power forehand. Oh, and it sits down? That's a little Discraft local love for him. That looked like that certainly should have caught edge and possibly rolled back. No surprise to see Drew putting it all the way up there. This very much is just a power shot. I mean, of course, you have the placement there on the hyzer line, but I feel like this is just raw power. 358 playing probably 425 at least. Andrew with a little too much mustard. Speaking of mustard, do you guys prefer yellow mustard or honey mustard on pretzels? Leave it in the comments. Oh, Philo, back to back. He's thinking about some honey mustard dipped pretzels. Probably with a Coke. So Gibson's actually looking somewhat downhill for his birdie.
Man, dude.
Andrew to save his par. Nice. No problems there. So for the second hole in a row, Philo's going to pick up the lone birdie on the card. And we're going to move over 69 feet of negative elevation. If that's, is that an oxymoron? Some would say this is a landing zone. That's one place where you could get to. And then some of our players are going to be trying to push all the way into this gap and even beyond, depending on just how aggressive your play is and obviously how accurate you are. As we move to this is the most difficult hole on the course statistically. It is it is 534 feet. Throwing downhill, turnover with the wind, I think just makes for some really, let's say, crazy scenarios here. I like the play by Andrew. Just trying to get that to push over. What a shot. Gibson's trying to get that to flip up and turn. His shoulders don't scream excited. Gibson and McBeth both 5 under for the round, and Paul taking a route you don't see often. I don't think any cameramen see it either. No.
Where it is.
Paul trying to project a little, hoping that it's parked, but it wasn't. Easy pitch out for Gibson. Just 6% of the field with birdies here. Single most difficult hole on the course as McBeth has pitched out. Philo to get 3 for 3, just short. And Andrew also looking at a birdie attempt. Solid. And just like that, Andrew's going to knot himself up with both Drew and McBeth. Pulls a little bit more away from Philo, who's got the last 2 birdies. Once they clear out here, there's going to be a medium length walk, and they're going to head over to play another uphill shot on hole number 13. Lucky 13, of course. I don't know why they always say lucky 13. Well, some people I know don't think it's lucky, but it feels like you have to say it whenever you reference the number 13. Ah, commentating alone. Here we are, 700 feet uphill. 13th most difficult playing into this beautiful green, averaging 3.82. And similar to what you find on hole number 2, you know, your footing on that second shot, I feel like, is what's so crucial. You're going to be throwing uphill, and then you got to get your timing and your release just right. This is also one of the famous spots. You see so many of the Discraft clinics that took place many years ago, very early going in the YouTubing world. And it looked like McBeth just getting over on that right out of his hand. Maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe he's trying to play over to there. I'm not sure that the angle's any better from that side. And we'll see if that pushes up far enough. It just flirting with that left side fairway fringe. That's a great shot by Andrew. We'll see if that can do the same. Oh, perfect shot by Philo. It looked like it was going to be a bit tight. And you see the difference here in McBeth not just having, not only standing still, but more so just knowing he was throwing that relatively flat, maybe a little bit of a turnover on it, as opposed to the other righties that are all just throwing hyzers. When you're throwing a hyzer up a hill, I think it makes it just a little bit easier, and you can see these guys are making it look routine. So Andrew's inside the circle. Wow, in shocking news, Andrew actually missing one. Is that the first legitimate miss putt he's had all round? Quite surprising, as McBeth is going to take the birdie from one knee. That's going to push him to 6 under on the round.
That's what I had yesterday. That's why you and I got in the fight. Yeah. Literally, I was right there. Couldn't make it. If I was here, I could do. I funny.
Paul and Drew exchanging war stories here about previous placements and rounds. We move over hole number 14. One of the easier holes that we'll find out on the course. All right, I lied. The easiest hole statistically, averaging 2.67, 375 feet, but all downhill. At most, place 3, 3 1/4. And it's a righty hyzer. Righty backhand hyzer. Of course, you do have to navigate a few of the trees that kind of protect the green, but coming in just a bit hot for Philo. It's going to be outside the circle, probably about 42, maybe 45 feet. Huge shout out to my boy Miles over at Paragon. That one came in a little bit hot for Dylan on the catch cam. Paul hangs that one just a bit wide. He knows it's wide, but it does come down. I think he said he switched up his disc because he was worried about how much it skipped past in the previous round. So I believe that's a mid. Maybe he went something a little slower, like an old Discraft Typhoon, Marauder, Eclipse, Tracer. I mean, those are all like slower drivers. I'm sure you guys are familiar with all those. And Andrew, a little struggle there trying to find his way out. This is Philo. This is Andrew to save his par after a cut roll that wasn't out clean. And that's not what I expected. He's been playing so incredibly well, and now here he is working. This is to save his bogey on the easiest hole on the course. He's at circle's edge.
That's fine, dude.
And that's good focus. I mean, obviously, you never want to be putting for bogey, but when you're that far away, maintains a little focus. And I think Paul saw a butterfly on the tree there. Maybe a little lack of focus there. Do you think if you're playing well, you're having a good round, you hear things from like butterflies talking to you? Aggressive tap in there by McBeth. So he's going to let the easiest hole on the course get past him as well. We move over to hole 15, 567 feet. Got some OB on that left side. And then plays up to the beautiful green perched on the hillside. 16th most difficult, so relatively easy, averaging 3.74. 51% of our field finding their way to birdies. We'll see if anyone on this group can be part of that. I should say birdie or better.
Oh my god, dude.
And Drew thought he made the mistake of throwing out of bounds, but thanks to one of the many spotters and crew out here, we see that he's safe. Huge shout out to everyone on the, not just the Pro Tour staff, but of course the actual event staff here at the Great Lakes Open, including Discraft, our presenting sponsor.
Well, we don't know.
That doesn't look like a typical, we'll say, layup. And that's, you really couldn't throw a tee shot better than that. McBeth clearly frustrated and going for everything. Everyone else kind of playing this for the easy birdie, and McBeth at that point not just playing for an easy birdie. He's looking for more. Great line by Philo. That is what you would call an easy birdie.
That'd been a funny eagle.
Gibson also almost ringing it up. He's lucky he didn't hit the Disc Golf Pro Tour pole koozie, trademarked. A little bit surprised there by Andrew to see that miscue.
Come on, where's that wind now? So far right.
Landscape architect Paul McBeth not quite getting what he needed. Andrew's working here. Just scoops it in for the birdie. That puts him to 5 under on the round. Gibson's going to go to 8 under. 7 under on the round, putting him to 19 overall. And Philo with the easy tap in, that's going to push him to 16, which would be 4 under on the round. Got just 3 holes left to play. Hope you guys join me. 354 feet, hole 16. Some have said this is the most difficult par 3 on the course. 31% of the field taking birdies here. 2.78 is the average score. I feel like there are a lot of...
Do something cool, maybe. Sit.
Wow. Awfully demanding there, Drew. There are a lot of different shots that you could throw here. We see flexes. We see the straight shot up the gut. Forehands. A little bit of everything. Philo.
Turn left. Come on. Stop.
Also with the commands, that seemed to listen a little better than Drew's. He's right next to the pin. See a little bit of a headwind coming at him.
Yeah, that helps you.
Looks like that should work for McBeth. That's an easy tap in. Here's the forehand by Andrew. We'll see if that hooks up. He hit the window, as Philo said, throwing it right into the headwind, but he's deep. Drew's goes half backwards. Really good line, just a bit deep on the power. McBeth's gonna tap in as he moves to 20 under on with the birdie. And they're starting to look for Andrews back there. Dylan trying to focus on camera manning. Yes. Andrews eventually found and then cans the birdie. Drew's good with the disc being left in there. No problems.
Not even happy for you anymore, Andrew.
Is it weird that sometimes Andrew packs boxes that then get shipped to Paul McBeth? I love disc golf. See the OB area on the left-hand side, also the landing zone there on the right to hole number 17. 755 feet. This is a par 4, 9th most difficult, so right in the middle of the challenge zone. It's not a plug for the challenger or the zone. And Philo doing pretty much all you hope to do here. You see again Paul maybe a little bit more aggressive than normal. Trying to pump one out there. And the harder that fades left, I feel like the more challenge there is, especially when you're finding the OB. Andrew pumps one way up. That's fading out to that left side. And if you're wondering about that snap that comes from Drew Gibson, that's actually an added effect that Drew has me put in on every one of his tee shots. That's sponsored by Drew Gibson. So McBeth gets ultimately his drop, where he plays from after the OB stroke. You see Andrew's not out of bounds. Oh, that's just a
Nice shot.
beautiful power shot. I know I've said it before, but this is where your footing can come into play so much, just trying to get a good solid run up.
Simmer down.
And Philo's in great position there. Just a bit short, but he's got a good look at birdie. And Drew with so much more of a flatter shot that he's able to, or flatter run up he's able to use there. Making it look easy. This is McBeth to save his par.
Yeah, Paul. Well done. Just throw it as hard as you can.
All right, I told you there'd be more pro tips. This one from McBeth, just throw it as hard as you can. That's a quote. That's one of the most obscure ways you could save par here. Terrible tee shot off to the left. Decent approach. Phenomenal putt. McBeth remains at 20 under. Philo picks up another birdie. He's going to move to 18 under. Gibson trying to move to 21. And he's going to remain there. This is Andrew, who's trying to push himself to 19 under. There we have it. Moving on to hole 18, 52 total feet of elevation, and OB on that left side, which is so easy to find, whether it's a kick off the tree or a cut roll or a forehand flick that just doesn't fight back enough, turnover that doesn't turn enough. There's a lot of ways to find the OB on that left side. Guessing this is one of the more difficult holes as I head over to UDisc Live. It's the third most difficult hole. And just to put the timestamp on it, we're hearing the FPO lead card being called off as these guys are about to tee. A little bit tight for Philo. And as we start to close this out, I, for the 10th time, have to thank the Disc Golf Pro Tour, all the staff and the crew of the Great Lakes Open, everybody over at Discraft for making everything possible. And there's a roll by Andrew. Oh no.
Oh, Andrew.
Wow. And it rolls all the way quite a ways back. Oh, that was just, that's not fair. Andrew, you've worked so hard, you're 7 under. McBeth with the roller. That's gonna go. No, okay. That's all right. Right around the pin. As I was saying, thanks to all those people. Thanks to my Patreon subscribers. Thanks to Dustin and Dylan. A couple of newer cameramen who are out here hustling around to give us the footage. And if it weren't for my Patreon subscribers, truly none of this would be possible. I know it's not necessarily next day, but it's additional coverage, solo commentary. I just hope that you guys enjoy the offer that we can throw it out there to give you yet more coverage as Drew finds himself out of bounds. And Andrew looking to get up and down here. He's gonna go with the Tall forehand. Wow, incredible shot. I feel like besides Disc Golf Network, you could probably find the winner of the event on other channels, like a Jomez or a Central Coast or one of those other fine channels. And a huge shout out to GK Pro, who have been out there hustling around getting action for the FPO. Wow. Philo finishes strong. That's 7 under on the round, 19 under overall. Come on, Philo, you can always smile, buddy. If Philo doesn't have the best smile in disc golf, I don't know who does. All right, we're getting off track. Thank you guys for joining us. McBeth's gonna, he taps in for birdie. He goes to 21 under. Oh, Andrew. Thank you for the support, Andrew. Thank you to the Patreon subscribers. Thank you to Discraft, Dustin, Dylan, Disc Baron. Go check them out. Find them online, discbaron.com. That's the Disc Golf Guy heading out for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. We'll see you guys later. Wow, you stuck around after the commercial? Well, please consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. Also, make sure that you've commented and shared and liked. That makes you eligible to win some sweet action that I'm going to give away. And click on some other stuff. I appreciate it, guys. And we'll see you at the next event, whether it's live or post. Looking forward to it.